we ready?
Yep,
Sure.
you're up.
You're the man.
Huh?
Your Mr. Burns impression? Excellent.
Just amazed that this many people actually listen to me.
So are we, but go ahead.
You speak with our power trip now.
His head, it's just.
Do I speak with authority?
Yes, you do. You come across very well.
Yeah, ask any police officer.
You've never dealt with it, you should have never told us that story.
I wasn't, that was actually your suggestion to talk about
I
that.
know,
And
because
it
you
was
told
suggested
me.
at the next meeting
I
again.
know, you told me, and I'll
It's a
never
good
forget.
story.
It is, it's too good to forget.
Okay, so we're still talking about communication. And I finally worked my way to some guidelines. We'll look back at those guidelines. And then what I would like to do is I'm going to show some slides. And we'll try to look at the slides and make some observations about them in accordance with the guidelines. We'll see how that goes. So these are the guidelines for communication. Observing without judgment, and that's making observations as a camera would make. No judgments, no diagnoses, no application of the nature of that thing. Simply an observation of exactly what you're seeing. Expressing feelings and needs, and this includes your feelings and needs, obviously, in any situation. And then, Ron? No, wait, what?
Expressing feelings and needs, I'm not gonna expose myself like that.
So you feel a little uncomfortable about it?
You're right.
Okay, so you're expressing a feeling now, wouldn't you be?
Oh, very good, yes.
All right, we see how that works? It's very simple, expressing feelings and
I
needs.
need simple.
Uh,
I need simple.
Simple, that could be a need. Simplicity, yeah, very important need. Giving and receiving empathy. And giving and receiving empathy is the recognition of feelings and needs in others. Feeling others' feelings and needs. And making clear requests and no demands. Simply asking for what you would like. As opposed to what? What do we usually do? What do we do a lot?
We tell.
We tell how it is. All right. So let's work first on observation. Anybody like to share what we're observing?
Isn't that Obama singing?
It's a very attractive man.
Facing the sun.
What's that?
A mulatto man facing the
A
sun.
mulatto man facing the sun. Sure.
He's squinty.
He's
So he must
squinty.
be looking
Yeah.
towards the sun.
He's talking.
Yeah, his mouth looks to be open a little bit. He's got a microphone, so might be talking.
Have a sword finger.
Fingers kind of out a little bit. Not sure if we know if it's sore or not. It seems to be pointing, doesn't it? Kind of pointing.
Oh, that's right, I shouldn't be
Casually dressed.
Yeah, wearing a nice blue and white checked shirt. Any feelings?
Wow,
Express a feeling.
that's a loaded question.
Are we observing his feelings
Yeah,
or ours?
ours.
Whose feelings
Your
are we
feelings
talking
first.
about?
Your feelings first. Who would like to go first?
Based on the
Yes.
fact that he's trying to convince us of something,
You
something that we
feel-
know that isn't true.
You feel that he's trying to convince us of something. Okay. What I would like to do is to work more on exactly the feeling that's alive in you when you think about that.
Like, he's trying to convince me of something that I know is not true.
Mhm.
That he will not stop and will just try and wear me down until I say, okay, just 2 and 2 is 5, just go on, go
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Okay, now, you notice that we're talking about him. What I would like to talk about is what you're feeling. For instance, if somebody was going to talk to me, and I already had this image of them in my mind, that this person is going to say these things and try to convince me of something, and continue to keep trying to convince me of something, I might feel uncomfortable with that, right? Or I might feel a little bit angry.
I'd be looking for the nearest polite exit of the conversation.
Mhm. What I'm looking for is the feeling that you would feel in you, that you would go, I'm out of here, right? I'm leaving.
Right now, I feel resentment towards me.
You feel resentment?
I can't stand him,
So maybe you feel a little bit of anger.
to say the least.
Yeah. So that's what's alive in you right now, right? And that's what I'm looking
Today,
for.
it got worse.
Huh? Got
Today, it
worse.
got worse.
Yeah, so you feel even more angry.
It became murderous.
So you're a little bit worried. You feel a little bit worried, Ron?
I feel worried about her, you know. Hid my guns.
Yeah,
Safety's an important need.
I got mine out.
See how angry,
Yeah,
see how the anger he's putting his
I'm
guns away?
feeling some anger, I'm feeling some worry.
Dislike.
Would that fit maybe what you would feel when you see that?
When I see him trying to lie to me and blatantly lie to me, I feel like I want to just tell him flat out, you're lying to me. Do not insult my intelligence by lying to me,
Mhm.
and just get out of my face.
Would you be able to maybe nail that down to just a feeling? Just a single word about how you feel?
That I am furious.
Furious. Okay, so you feel furious.
Yes.
All right. And let's move on to maybe what Obama's feeling. Let's take a shot at just taking a guess, maybe at what Obama is feeling in this picture.
I can't quite make out the telephone.
So maybe he's feeling a little confused. I feel a little bit nervous.
I think he feels like he knows more than anybody else.
He's confident because he's cocky. I don't know, something
You
like
think
So he feels like he knows more than anybody else, and he's cocky.
that. It's
There's
confident.
arrogance.
I think he thinks
He's
that
cocky and he's confident. So these are descriptive words, right? These are characterizations of what he is and how he is. I'm just looking for a basic feeling, like happy,
He's happy.
sad,
Power.
nervous.
superiority.
He's disgusted having
I think he feels disgusted.
having to keep explaining himself over and over again.
So maybe he feels from frustration then too. Okay. Probably pretty common feelings in politicians, right? Frustration, disgust. I don't know.
You guys are seeing an awful lot of pictures.
Yeah, so these are just kind of snapshots. We're kind of taking guesses at these things, but we don't have to guess at our own feelings, but we might be guessing at Obama's feelings and the rest of these pictures. So the needs. What need do you think that you would have? You have some feelings obviously associated with this, and I think that feelings generally come from some need of ours not being met, or maybe we think that our need of ours is not going to be met in that situation.
I think the need for the truth is
A need for trust, maybe the need for honesty,
yes,
need for authenticity.
all of the above.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe you're looking at Obama and you feel uncomfortable because you have a need for trust, you have a need for honesty, you have a need for authenticity.
Around all politicians. No, I mean
Seems to happen around politicians. Those needs go unmet a lot of times around politicians, you're thinking.
I think that they'll just lie to say what they have to say to get elected. and once they get into office, they'll do what they really want to do. Instead of what they said they were going to do.
Yeah, and you sound like you feel kind of frustrated about that.
Where I come from, you do what you say and you say what you do.
Because you have a need for that trust, right? That honesty. Very important need. So if we had a specific request for Mr. Obama, a clear, concrete request, in order to get our needs met, what might that request be?
Step down.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Step down?
Go away.
We don't mean off the platform.
Go home.
Drop dead.
Now, that would get you a chat with the Secret Service.
No, he just did it on his own.
Yeah, the Secret Service might have a request for you.
Yeah.
Drop dead.
Okay. A lot of anger, maybe a lot of feelings of frustration.
But I love it, anyway.
What other needs? What other
Pretty much
needs?
take care of
I'm
that.
sensing a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, so what needs aren't getting met? These feelings come from needs not getting met. We had a need for trust and honesty, maybe that's not getting met, a need for authenticity, right? What other needs?
Understanding.
A need for understanding. You'd like to be understood. You'd like to feel like he's somebody that understands you or what you have to say or the way that you're looking at things. That need definitely not getting met, right? All right, now we're getting
He
somewhere.
needs to put himself in someone else's shoes, like a normal person, and step outside himself and see what his followers.
Yeah, so maybe you have a need for to be understood, right? You have a need to be understood. Maybe you see other people and you feel like they probably have a need for him to understand them as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But when we're looking, if I may interject, when we
Yeah.
go, originally, what we said, we look at him unemotionally, and it seems like, I don't really get that from just looking at the picture. I get that looking at the picture and knowing what he does and how he sounds. And so I think all of these feelings and so forth that we're talking about, it's because of what we already know about, not the feelings we get from the picture.
Yeah. So you're trying to point out that you have background information that comes to mind and generates these feelings and needs. Sure. Yeah.
So we're not, at least I was, of course, it's hard for me to be serious about anything, but honestly, I guess the feelings I was getting from this, I don't know how I can express feelings. What was this second?
The second, I went right from the guidelines to this picture. This
Yeah,
one.
expressing feelings,
Mhm.
expressing my feelings and needs. And if I was just looking at him and observing him, I'm not sure that I'd be expressing any feelings or needs.
If we didn't know who he was, if
Right,
it was just
right.
some guy
Yeah,
off
if
the
he was just
street,
some guy that you saw on the street.
we wouldn't have those.
Yeah, and as far as giving, or are we at giving and receiving empathy? We're not yet, right?
Well, what I'm trying to do is to look at the way that we're thinking about things, right? You're not going to probably be giving and receiving empathy to a photo up on a screen, right? But if you are in discussion with someone, if you're having a personal encounter with somebody, you are more likely to have an empathetic connection with them if you are thinking about what their feelings and needs are and your own. right? So like, let's say Obama walked in here, right? The difference is between going, you're a liar, you're going to lie to me, you're going to speak endlessly and try to convince me of something I don't want to be convinced of, right? There's no feelings and needs. They're behind that. They're the cause of that. They're being expressed through that. But the shift is to think about what your feelings and needs are and his, right? So you're going, I need trust, I need honesty, I need authenticity in our discussion, I need to be able to express a point of view, I need you to be willing to look at things in a different way. Those needs aren't getting met and I feel frustrated, right? And being conscious of what's actually going on instead of that other stuff that is not going to lead or is less likely to lead to a productive connection and encounter there, right? So like if you were going to extend
Well, if
empathy.
he came in, you mean like, if he just came in like a stranger and I've never seen him before?
No, I mean if he came in and he was Barack Obama.
He is what he is, and I
Yeah.
have all this baggage of feelings about him.
Yeah, so the idea is to
So-
sift through that baggage and see what is the feeling and what is the
So-
need.
Yeah. So you would, if you're going to do that, you would maybe share something about yourself and ask him why his policies and so forth.
Exactly what he learned.
Why he feels that those are things that other people would want.
Yeah. Now, I notice a lot of times we want to discuss policies, right? We want to reason, we want to compare ideas, we want to share statistics, right? And you would likely want to do something like that if you were talking to Barack Obama. The problem is that how many times do we talk to somebody and it doesn't seem like they're willing to listen, right? Now, this happens to me all the time. We're talking to each other, but we're not hearing each other. So the idea here is, I'm not trying to discuss, which chart you should show Obama or what policy specifically to discuss, but I would like consciousness to focus on what feelings and needs are involved, right? Because if Barack Obama or anyone else in your life that you have maybe enemy images of already in your head, when you approach them and you talk to them, are you thinking liar? Are you thinking you're going to talk to me endlessly? Are you thinking all this other stuff? Or are you thinking, I feel frustrated because I'm not sure that I'm going to get the authenticity that I need? And that's important to me, right? What I would like for you is to be willing to consider my viewpoint openly. And make that clear request, be in touch with those feelings, those needs, make that clear request so that you connect with that person. Because if I'm thinking that you're a liar or you're difficult to deal with, or I don't like to be around you, or making characterizations about what that person is like, it's going to be much more difficult for us to have any kind of a connection with that person. And then whatever our needs are in that encounter, probably going to be a lot more difficult to get those needs met. Right? If we're kind of speaking in this code of jackal, what we call the jackal language, right? Where it's characterizations and I'm diagnosing you and you're a liberal and you're unreasonable, and instead just ask for exactly what we want. Does that make sense?
I feel like I'm the whole room over here. Yeah, I mean, I could just talk.
Yeah.
You and I could just have a conversation on this.
Yeah, but
But other people need to.
Okay.
Getting it too.
Yeah, you
I
want
would
other
say-
people to be able to
I
participate.
would say the one thing, I guess, you'd have to try to get, and maybe this is what you're saying, you can never come together, and I don't think you can agree on anything unless you make your premises clear to each other.
Sure.
I mean, you have to have a starting point somewhere, and if you don't have, as in any debate, there's usually the subject, or how the debate is going to be framed, and then you're all arguing based, I shouldn't say arguing, but discussing, and rebuttals based on the same premise.
Yeah, but what I've noticed, and you may have noticed this as well, is I can present a premise and I have a difficult time getting acknowledgement for that premise, the person I'm trying to communicate with is already talking about something else, right? And I've had this happen 3 or 4 times in conversation where I'm going, would you be willing to answer the question that I presented to you? Or would you be willing to take the discussion back to my original point?
And that's fair. That's a fair request.
Right, but I'm stating what my needs are in that conversation. You know, I've had a difficult time trying to stay in conversations and keep the conversation focused, right? And have our minds connected on the premises that we want to present to each other because of the underlying process that was going on, because I was in a judgment state of mind about that person, or I was worried about countering every point that that person made, right? So the idea here is that I'm aware of what's alive in me at the moment. If I feel frustrated because I need you to be willing to go back to the original premise, or I need you to be willing to listen to the idea that I presented at the beginning of the conversation, or I really would like you to focus on this, I'm feeling kind of frustrated because it gives that person an opportunity to understand, all right, this person feels this, and they're making this request of me, right? And go back to that. And the other idea is giving empathy, right? So understand maybe that what you're expressing right now is very important to you. Maybe you're worried about X, Y, and Z. And what happens is that person that has that resistance going, right? That's trying to counter everything you're saying, or maybe just we're not listening to each other. We'll go, all right, so this person at least cares about my viewpoint. They care about what my needs are. And I found that it facilitates a much healthier conversation, a much better exchange of information if you can keep that connection. So I'm feeling a little bit worried right now because I'm thinking that this may sound pretty complicated and difficult to understand. I'm trying to keep it to these 4 guidelines, which I think are pretty simple, but I'm wondering if the way I'm explaining it is making it sound like it's very complex and hard to understand.
Your understanding is easy, it's doing it that's
Yeah, that's the reason I wanted to just show these pictures and talk about them, is to try to establish that pattern, right? Of going, well, how do I feel about this picture? Like immediately, what's my feeling that I'm having? So that we can become conscious of what that feeling is. Because I've gone through many discussions, and the more difficult the discussion, the less I'm aware of how I'm feeling about the discussion, right? And maybe you walk away embarrassed or red-faced or angry or whatever from the discussion, never having thought about how do I feel about the discussion that's going on right now. So I think it's important to get in to the habit of going, well, what am I feeling right now, and what do I really need at this moment?
Yeah,
And
because
that's
if he
the
walked
idea.
in, we'd all be so angry, we'd all want to wring his neck, and that's probably what we're thinking at that point.
Yeah.
It's not whether my needs get met, it's like, and I don't care what your needs are, I just
Well-
want to wring your neck. I mean,
What I feel worried about is that we're not going, I feel like wringing his neck, right? We're just acting on that impulse.
Right.
You know what I mean? If we could stop and go, I feel like wringing his neck, that leads to, all right, is this going to get my needs met? What's the best way to get my needs met? Right?
Wringing his neck would be number one.
Right.
Temporary.
I can throw stuff at him. I can't wring his neck. That's going to come back to bite me, right? So how do I feel? I mean, it's an important question to ask. And then what need isn't getting met?
Well, none's gonna get met if I just wanna keep wringing his neck, cause he ain't gonna hear me and I'm not
That'll
gonna.
be a good need to meet.
Yeah. I mean, are you guys able to understand what I'm saying? Does it
Yeah,
kind of
I
make
think a
sense?
lot of what you're talking about is empathy.
Yeah,
That
it's-
almost the whole thing could be lumped into
It
empathy.
really is all about empathy,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah,
how
if
well
you
do
can
we
just get
function?
past the, hear what the other person is saying and then respond, and say, feeling that with empathy and where they're coming from, and say, wow, you really kind of sound upset right now,
Yeah,
or frustrated. It kind of takes all the sting out of the other.
yeah, the
And it's-
dynamic can really change
Yeah.
when we're able to do that.
And it takes the whole defense. I mean, cause you don't get near as defensive if you're going, oh, I understand how you feel, or I see why you're, you take down the defense, cause then they wanna argue if you're, we all get defensive.
Yeah,
Okay, I do.
Don't we always start out with strangers by doing that, though? We just kind of feel our way through them, and talk about the weather, we talk about whatever, and then we get to the point, like Obama, you know, having known him, if I wanted to strike up a conversation without wringing his neck, which I feel like Sue most of the time, I would say there's people in the United States that need help. And that would carry on with the conversation, well, how are we going to help them? And my views and his would sharply divide on that. But I think that basically you try to find common ground and dealing with people and go from there.
Yeah.
At some point in time, you're going to divide.
But you still have to be civil to one another.
Yeah.
If you want to have a discussion with Sally, and Sally starts out screaming at you, and you try to say, well, but, and then it's continues screaming, you might as well turn around and go get a drink.
Scott is really good at that.
What do you guys?
See, I think if you use Scott's method, you show Sally that you understand what she's saying, the screaming tends to stop very quickly.
I've seen people
She's like,
scream.
oh, he gets it.
Why didn't you use it, won't use it?
Well,
He knows he says women and goes
Okay.
gets a drink.
Yeah, I mean, that idea is, once you can establish an empathetic connection, that the anger and a lot of the emotions that make it difficult for us to hear each other will soften, right? And then we're actually,
It has to be
there's
a
something
two-way
very,
street.
what's that?
It has to be a two-way street.
Yeah, it does have to be a two-way street, but the question is, how are we gonna make it a two-way street, right?
How do you break down the barrier?
Yeah.
One, I think if you're not attacking them, first of all, that's gonna make it easier right
Right.
there.
I don't want people to worry that I can't talk to certain people because they're not going to feel the way I do, and it's not going to work. It only has to be alive in you in order to be of benefit to you, right? And I think that if you're going into a conversation, you're going, this person doesn't want to empathize with me, this person feels angry, this person this person that, your chances of getting your needs met aren't as great. If you can show that person that I understand, maybe you feel this way, and you have this particular need behind that feeling, and I think a lot of times, just that person hearing that their needs actually matter to you, even a simple acknowledgement of what their needs are, the odds are that that two-way street, or at least the odds are much better, that two-way street is going to develop.
She just throw a punch.
Forgive
What's that?
me, I'm,
She just throw a punch.
Who just threw a punch?
The woman that I'm trying to establish this rapport with.
Yeah, so you have a need for safety, right? And maybe you feel, I don't know, maybe you feel a little bit uncomfortable with this because you have a need to be efficient, and you think this might not be an efficient way to get your needs met.
phone number and email address.
It would be if the opposition was not so adamant in her position.
Yeah, so maybe you feel nervous that if people are really angry, then if you try to do this, then your needs aren't going to get met, right? You want to try to do something else that's going to work better for you.
Try to establish that rapport.
Yeah.
But past history has demonstrated that has failed several times.
And so what would be the alternative then?
Go have a drink.
Together?
She doesn't drink.
Oh. Who is this she?
A friend.
Huh? Oh,
A
okay.
friend. Like 3 fingers of,
Jack Daniels.
nice Irish whiskey.
If I presented the impression that you aren't allowed to go have a drink, I didn't mean to do that. So this person has actually hit you before, and you feel like you can't build a connection with this person?
Yeah.
You feel a bit frustrated about
She's a
that?
staunch Democrat
Oh.
from the East Coast,
Way worse in Chicago.
married to a friend of mine.
So she probably feels really uncomfortable when you start espousing some views that she doesn't agree
Oh,
with.
without a doubt.
She ain't got a chance.
Maybe she starts to feel angry. Maybe she wants some acknowledgement that there's a different way to look at this.
That plus not wanting to listen to any other argument, or any other side, or any other point of view.
So if you were to sit down to have a discussion with this person, at that point where you sit down, would you feel kind of nervous or uneasy because?
I'm anticipating what has happened in the past.
Right. Okay.
So drink a
Might-
few drinks before you.
Might I suggest trying something besides
Please.
alcohol?
What's wrong with
Maybe at
social-
the beginning of the discussion,
I-
just let her know what's alive in you, right? Just say, I feel pretty nervous. I feel a little bit afraid about even having any kind of political discussion.
Would you be ladylike enough to have a conversation instead of a shouting match?
Whoa.
No.
Whoa.
No, that would, you know what, you would get slapped right now.
I guess the girls didn't buy
No,
that.
you would have got slapped, you're lucky that, I didn't slap you.
Well, I feel a little bit worried that if she hears those kinds of judgments, you're gonna have a really difficult time being heard, right?
Yeah, he's not gonna be able to hear either after he gets getting in.
Could you?
Aren't you a little sensitive?
Could you stop shouting and listen for a minute?
No,
Well,
no.
if she's still talking to you, you shouldn't tell her to stop shouting. You should listen to what she's shouting at you and say, so here's, if
So
I'm
you seem
understanding
upset.
you, here's what you're saying. Now, if you offer me the same opportunity to give you my view.
Tony, I get 2 words out. Now, do you?
That's it, huh? Now,
That's it, that's it, that's
So-
it.
you're frustrated because you're afraid you won't even get 3 words out. Your need to be heard will not be met at all.
Not a bit.
Do you think you could get that out?
Yeah,
There you
I could shout just about as she can.
go.
Would you need to shout? Could you just say that?
I could say it, she would hear it,
Why not?
Try it,
because, try it?
yeah, try it and tell us what
Try it, Mikey, you might like it.
What's the bottom line?
Mikey did.
Mikey liked it.
Look, you need to
I
get
could
your
try
own
that,
needs
sure I
met.
could, I could try
You need to get your own needs met, right?
Yeah.
If you can't go into you really can't go into a conversation with this person and have your needs met, whatever your needs met.
Nobody can,
Okay.
not just
Then
me.
don't. I don't want you to do anything you don't want to do, right? If you don't want to go in that conversation, don't do it.
Yeah, I know.
If you do, right, if you feel like there's some need you can get met by trying to do that again, that would be my suggestion, is to go, I really feel nervous because these
No.
things, I have a need to be heard, I have a need
And
for,
it's not gonna be met.
and it's not gonna be met.
Not gonna be.
Well, tell her that. I'm afraid that my need to be heard in this is just not gonna be met.
And she's gonna say tough.
No, she'll just say have a drink.
She what?
She'll just say have a drink,
So just say, have a drink.
have a glass of wine.
What's she, a
And then, does that
bartender?
seem to help?
Does that help, or does that help? He does, does that help?
Would that help?
Does it
No,
help?
it doesn't seem to help.
It does you afterwards?
No, it gets her more excited.
Yeah.
Gets her more
Well,
excited,
still
so it's
let
not
her
helping
drink
me.
and you drink.
How can I stop the ball moving?
Okay, well, I'd like to
Don't
look on, I'd like to move on and, look at some more pictures.
You need to do it, you need to do it so you can
The
feel
results.
it.
Would be an
You gotta report
observation
to us.
on this one. Would anybody like to articulate that? By the way, if you try that, if you try just letting her know exactly what's alive in you at the time, right, free of judgments, would you be willing to come back and tell us how that went?
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
think. He needs to.
Look for you to come in with a black eye.
No.
No, I
Her
really like.
husband will have a good laugh on it.
Huh?
About Jeff, the Marine.
Who is it that'll have a good laugh? Her husband?
Pardon me?
Her husband will have a good
Oh,
laugh?
yeah, he'll be sitting over in the corner cackling.
Yeah. Humor's an important need then,
Well,
right?
obviously.
At least it'll help somebody.
Yeah.
No, she doesn't.
Oh. Okay, he doesn't.
Observations?
Big Lord.
I have one. I
Yeah.
mean, the first 2 signs are kind of like, ho-hum, you know, what big deal.
Okay, so we're getting some, I feel like we're getting some judgments. I'm just
Yeah,
wanting
the
observations.
The third sign there, wait a minute. It's like, water isn't free, okay. pay your taxes, tea baggers.
So right now, we're just looking for observations as a camera.
Well, that's
would
an
make.
observation on my part, that is, right now that tells me that that's a liberal protest going on there, and they're after the Tea Party people and claiming
that
that
be
they
an
don't want to
observation?
pay taxes.
Is that the type of observation that a camera would make?
No, probably not.
Okay.
The camera has no emotion, it doesn't see anything but just people standing there with signs.
Yeah, so at this stage of the exercise, that's what I would like, is just a motionless, judgmentless
That's just people
observation.
standing there with signs in front of the Capitol.
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah,
Is that what Helene's looking for?
we'll get to
She
that.
wants a fight.
So some of
get
the
to that.
little Caesar down there with good heart.
We'll address that.
I want the naked cowboy. Now, let's go big time.
Well, let's go into the feelings then. I think we've already gotten into the feelings. You feel uncomfortable.
She's offended by the last sign.
Frustrated,
because
it's
talking
just
about-
frustrating, you know, the sense of frustration that I feel is just represented by that one statement there. It's like, wait a minute, people, what are you talking about?
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
those people are uninformed and ignorant. So they think if you pay more money, the government will usually efficient. They don't seem to realize you pay them money, they just waste it. And the word isn't free. They're implying Tea Party supports the war. Why don't, you should pay more taxes if you want.
So it sounds like you feel a little bit frustrated as well.
When people like that, it's like they don't understand, or they don't take the trouble, they won't listen to actually how government works. They want other people to pay taxes.
Yeah,
Any
they
other
don't.
feelings, maybe anger? You feel a little bit of anger?
Well, they're always-
49.5% of the population doesn't pay any taxes.
Right.
I mean, that's probably one of them.
Any other feelings?
Insult.
Huh?
Insult.
Insult would be something where you're implying that there is an insulter. So I would think that insulting, if you reduce it down, maybe anger, frustration again.
Well, I feel insulted.
You feel insulted. Okay. Not sure if there might not be some elements of judgment and evaluation in that.
Yeah, but if I consider myself as part of the group of a sign, that's insulting to me.
If you consider yourself. Oh, you mean because it says teabaggers on there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you feel that insult. So maybe you feel a little bit angry because of that insult?
Well, yeah. And usually people that are insulted aren't happy about
Yeah,
it.
you feel angry. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just strip it right, just down to the feeling, right? Just pure feeling. It doesn't
Yeah.
say anything about the other person. At least for the observation stage, that's what we're shooting for. You know what I mean on that?
Yeah.
Okay.